Hey guys, I wanted to make this video for you to introduce myself and give you a little bit of clarity about what you're actually getting into. I am officially your director of coaching, and chances are you're watching this because you're about to start working with someone on the team as your coach, or you're transferring to a coach from a prior coach. And this is maybe just a point of clarity for you. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what coaching is and what it's not as well. Because when you get started with something like this, knowing what it's for and what to expect from it, what not to expect is probably kind of helpful. In fact, most of the challenges that I've seen over the years of coaching thousands and thousands of individuals, either myself or including my team, chances are has just come from a misunderstanding about what to expect and what the coach is there for, what coaching is and what it's not. So I'm going to just clarify what is coaching for the last time, and also what it's not as well. So you really have a kind of an expectation here as to what this is that you're actually going to be a part of as well. Now, I do want to also mention that I'll share in a separate video just what your coach does specifically and what they don't do in more detail. I'm going to cover a little bit of that here, and also what you should expect from them and what you shouldn't expect from them, and also what they will expect from you, and what it really takes to get the most from your coach and your coaching relationship as well. But let's set that aside. Let's get them some basic definitions here. So what is coaching? I'm going to share with you a very simple definition. Coaching is really just a process, and really the way that we run this process is through conversations. So basically, coaching is a conversation between you and your coach. But it's a conversation that's a kind of a special kind of conversation. This is a conversation where the result of the conversation, the purpose, if you will, of the conversation is whatever your results are that you're after, your goals, what's valuable to you. Most conversations you might have with somebody, they're not about you necessarily, although you could talk about yourself too in a conversation. They're not, it's not all about like the utility and the usefulness of the conversation. Sometimes people like to make small talk and they just talk about whatever they feel like talking about. And a lot of times these conversations that we'll have with friends, family, even business associates, when we're just casually having conversation, they just go wherever they go. They kind of meander and they go into what I call rabbit holes or down blind alleys, and they just kind of go nowhere. You don't really get a result from the conversation necessarily. It's not about what's important to you necessarily, and it doesn't necessarily serve. It might, but there's a good chance that most of these conversations kind of don't. It's just like, hey, how's it going? What's going on with your day? Like, what do you think about that thing or that latest sporting event or the latest events in the current world, right? It's not about you and your results and what's important to you. Coaching is a conversation that is only about that. If you're having a conversation with your coach about stuff that doesn't matter to you, it makes no difference to you, that has nothing to do with what your most highest priority goals, and it's not valuable to you, that's not coaching. I'm telling you right now. So if that happened with a coach in the past, then I apologize. But the bottom line is we want you working with a coach who's actually going to do coaching with you. And that means that it's a conversation or a process that's there, that the meaning of that process, the purpose of that conversation is to serve you, your goals, and what matters to you. That's it. Anything that happens within that process, generally speaking, you could call that coaching. That gives you a lot of latitude, and your coach a lot of latitude as well, as far as all the different ways they might approach coaching. Now, that said, there are some typical, I don't even want to say boundaries. There are some typical grounding or places that we stand for in coaching that we find are the most valuable. And so this is generally what you what your coach is trained in, what they specialized in. So we're going to get to that in a second, but just let me give you a little bit more kind of clarification and details and some languaging that I wrote in some documentation here. This may be provided to you through your program that you're in as well. Chances are it is in some kind of intake package or something, but I'm going to go ahead and share with you some highlights here. So overview of what coaching is. Professional coaching is an ongoing professional relationship that helps people produce extraordinary results in their lives, careers, businesses, or organizations. Through the process of coaching, clients deepen their learning, improve their performance, and enhance their quality of life. Fancy way to articulate what I just said. Okay, so it's just a little bit more words if that's your preference, but that's it. So now let's talk about results. Since this whole thing I just said is like all about your results and what matters to you. So just going to read a little bit more detail when it comes to results specifically. So coaching is designed to help clients improve their learning and performance and enhance their quality of life. Coaching does not focus directly on like relieving psychological pain or treating like cognitive or emotional disorders. So, that's more of a healing type of process, and coaches are not meant to be healers. That's typically not what we're about. If I'm coaching, if I'm an Olympic coach and I'm coaching an Olympic athlete, I'm not trying to heal their injury, right? I'm not trying to heal their knee, even if they need it for the event, right? Like that's the doctor's job. I'm the coach, right? I might work with the doctor, but I'm not going to do the doctor. I don't replace the doctor, right? That would make no sense. And I'm not there to help my client, help my player, get over their fear of performing or something like that, or dredge up the past issues that they had when they had an event in the past Olympics, right? Like that's not what I'm about. Now, might I do some of those things that to help them remove blockages, things that get in their way of performance? Sure, but I'm not a healer. I'm not trying to cure them of an illness, whether it's psychological, physical, or otherwise. Like I'm not a doctor. I'm not licensed to do that kind of work. As a coach, I would help somebody set better goals and reach those goals. I'd ask you to do more than you might have done just on your own without me coaching you, to set your standards to another level, if you will, to focus you better, to more quickly produce results, provide tools, support, and structure to accomplish more. Like that is what I'm up to, not curing you of an illness, not healing you of a sickness or malady. As coaches, we almost assume typically that you are whole and complete, that there's nothing wrong with you, nothing to fix or change about you, that you're already mentally, physically, psychologically healthy, and that you can handle a rigorous coaching conversation. That we're talking about going to the next level, not like fixing something that's wrong with you, right? That's not what we're up to. So that's this kind of the full-on what is coaching answer. Now, part of this conversation is looking at this and comparing it with other ways that you might get help from somebody, because coaches are here to help too, but how we approach helping and supporting you versus how other people helpers might, this can vary, and so this can get confusing. And sometimes people will confuse coaching with a different process. So for instance, people confuse coaching with consulting. This is a big one. And in our program, look, our coaches might teach you something. They might give you some information. That's great if they do. They might even give advice, right? That's what a consultant might do too. But coaching, although it's maybe a form of consulting, the coach, they stay with the client to help you and support you in implementing what you might have learned, whether the coach or somebody else taught you that. And it's really not like the coach is there to support you in making it happen, transforming what's stopping you from being this productive and gaining progress in the direction of that, to make sure you're accountable for following through, and to help strategize with you. But typically they're not there to tell you the right answer, give you a bunch of advice, tell you what's true and what's not true. They're not your teacher, right? And they're not your consultant per se, right? It's like we work on way higher level stuff than just like here's some knowledge. The nice thing is nowadays, from the training that you're in or whatever we're actually teaching within a program that we're working with you in, there's a good chance that may be enough, and the coach is just supporting you on actually executing on that powerfully, personalizing it and tailoring it to you. Or nowadays you can Google this stuff. You can watch this on YouTube or Facebook and learn a ton. How to and knowing what to do it's kind of a dime a dozen nowadays. As coaches, we're there to help you break through what else is getting in your way, not just lack of knowledge. That's typically not what we're about. So we're not your consultant per se. We're not your teacher. We're not even here for like Q&A. I talked to a client the other day and he said, one of your coaches, I asked them, what's the best CRM for this particular industry that I'm in, for this particular situation? And it was just cricket. So you didn't tell me anything. And, I didn't have the time, but I wanted to just tell that client, that's not their job. They're not your help desk. They're not there to give you just a bunch of information and answers and you just grill them with questions. In fact, your coach isn't about answers. Your coach is there to actually ask you questions. It's not you asking the coach questions per se. Now, I'm not saying you could never ask a question from your coach, right? But it's like, what good is that going to do you? Is that really, do you really need to know some other answer? Usually you can get it from somebody that's works for you or with you. You get it from your trainer, the teachers that you work around, from the internet, like I said, Google or YouTube or God forbid, you got to go to a library, right? Mentors can provide that, because they've been where you are and they've walked that path and they can tell you every little minefield, every little mine that's waiting for you along the way, every little piece of information that might have slipped through the cracks. That's great. But your coach, they're working with you on a day-to-day basis, getting you to show up for practice, do your push-ups, run your plays. And then in the big game, they're there calling plays and work with you on execution, implementation, being powerful in the process of that, even when the chips are down. That's like a whole different thing. That's not mentoring, teaching, help desk or consulting. That's all like a higher level type of thing. In my opinion, I'm sure the consultants, teachers, and help desk would kind of get mad at me for saying that, I guess. But it's at a different level, if you will, not even a higher level. Also, your coach is not there to do it for you. Like you're out there, you're the star player, making the plays, scoring the points, making progress, not your coach. They're not, and I'm not saying they can't partner with you at times, depending on the situation. But at the end of the day, you're the player, you're the star. You can't get off that easy to saying like, hey, somebody else will do it. You're the one that's going to win or lose the game. Coaches on the sideline, they're not even playing. I'm not saying they're not in the game. They kind of are in the game with you. Like their butt's on the line too. But they have enough distance from the field to see more than what you might see as the player. They might be able to offer perspectives, but they're not there to give you a bunch of answers or run the play for you. Like Michael Jordan's coach never just ran out on the court and grabbed the ball and put it in the hoop. It's like, I don't think he ever did that. Not their job. And he's going to work with them on plays, but not necessarily tell them how to bounce the ball per se. Okay. So that's the big difference between consulting or teaching or mentoring and coaching. Now, I already alluded to this, but let's talk about the difference between coaching and therapy. Now, some training organizations actually are teaching coaches to do like therapeutic intervention type of stuff. And if you met a coach in the past to try to do more therapeutic stuff with you, I apologize. That's not what we are after in the profession. Now, that said, coaches can work with you cognitively on your mindset and your psychology. But we're not there to heal something. We're not like, again, doctors that's going to mend your ills or your wounds, if you will. That's not our domain. So we can work with you on process, how you might think about things, how you feel about something. We could talk to you about that, but we're not there to like meander into the past and dredge up old ills. And we're not there to like put a psychological Band-Aid on a wound either. That would be a therapist that would do that, a healer, a a doctor, if you will, psychotherapist, a psychologist, psychiatrist, etc. Those are the individuals that are licensed for those healing modalities, not your coach. We're licensed to work with you on going to the next level, not to fix something that's wrong with you right now or cure you of a disease, whether it's psychological, emotional, mental, physical, whatever. Okay, go to a doctor for that. That's not our job. So coaching is not therapy. We don't work on like your ills, if you will, or even issues for the most part. We don't go into the past. We rip the rear view mirror off the car. Basically, we just look forward and move forward. We leave it up to you to know and figure out while we help you move forward and set personal and professional goals that will, move you in the direction of the life that you really want. But we leave it to you to figure out if there's something like wrong. Okay, we're not there to diagnose you. Frankly, we're not there to judge if there's something wrong with you or not, right? I almost always assume, sometimes wrongly, but almost always assume that you're healthy and whole and complete, and you're really okay, And if ever I've worked with a client that was in therapy, or they had like a doctor helping them like with areas that border on what I'm doing, I got a written permission from that doctor to work with you, so that if there's a clear division of labor, and it's clear that I'm not somehow getting in the way of a healing process that you're going through, because I'm going to be tough on you sometimes. I'm going to be rigorous with you. I want to set high standards. And like, if you're messed up right now, like, can you imagine like having a broken leg going through like boot camp or spring training, out at the ballpark or something? It's just like your leg is going to get worse. Like, it's literally going to harm you to be out there at boot camp, like you're never going to heal. Right? It's kind of like that in coaching. Like if you're wounded, I don't mean like physically at this point, obviously that could be an impact too, but like psychologically wounded or mentally wounded in some way, there's some kind of malady you're diagnosed with, etc. And then I'm like, okay, buddy, you better get this done. And this is what you're accountable for. And here are the goals, and we're going to take it to the next level, and no excuses and no whining. And it's like that, you could go like a downward spiral, and unfortunately, from time to time, when somebody really has, major psychological issues, they will come to me and they'll say, my coach has damaged me. And I'll tell them, look, maybe you shouldn't be with that coach, or maybe you shouldn't be in coaching at all. Because if you were somehow damaged through the process of rigorous coaching, then maybe there's some healing you need, and you should not be in a process that's really for mature, healthy adult people that really like, 2 arms, 2 legs kind of thing, not physically, but you know what I mean? Like mentally and psychologically, you have your ducks in a row at this point. If you don't, this could scramble your brain a little bit, because we're about moving you forward, assuming that you're healthy and you've got the wherewithal mentally, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, etc., to do that. If not, we got to really take a step back and take a look at, can you handle this? And is there a coach that might be appropriate with a level of rigor, etc., such that you can make it through the process and come out better, not like somehow broken down. Okay. As coaches, part of our job is to kind of break through or break up or help you break away from old patterns, right? So you kind of do have to break yourself up a little bit. I don't want to say break yourself down. Maybe sometimes it'll feel that way. It'll feel a little down when you're kind of making breakthroughs happen, right? But it's not about a breakdown. It's about breaking through things, and breaking is part of that process, right? It's like, it's kind of violent sometimes to go through that mentally, psychologically. So with that, you got to be healthy. You got to be strong enough to deal with that. Coaching's not for everybody. And I hate to say that as a coach. I want it to be for everybody, but I got to remind myself that it's not. And then when I'm working with somebody that kind of can't handle it, okay, we got to take a step back and ask, is this something that's right for you at this point? Okay. So that's the difference between coaching and therapy. And we really want to make sure we play it safe here by drawing the line and making sure that it's clear what we're there to do. And also when you maybe shouldn't be in that process just yet, or we should get support from somebody who can heal you so that if you're going to be in this process or you're going through this process, you can handle it. And you're strong enough or resilient enough to deal with boot camp or spring training, which is going to you're going to have some sore muscles at spring training. You're going to lose some sleep at boot camp sometimes. That's just part of the process, right? Depression, schizophrenia or whatever, just whatever you're dealing with that is diagnosable, that is a real malady, we got to be careful. We got to watch for that. That may not work for you. It may not be okay. And we want to make sure we get permission from any health professional that's working with you that it's okay that we work with you, and then we know where we're supposed to be drawing the line here, other than our natural, just ethical and legal considerations that we would always do. Like I said, we're not going to work on your past, and we're not going to try to heal you of some malady. Make sense? Okay. Finally, sometimes people compare coaching to sports coaching, and this is actually a fair comparison because coaching does include lots of principles from sports coaching. Teamwork, going for the goal, being your best. Unlike sports coaching, though, most professional coaching is not competition oriented. We're not there to beat somebody or, make you win so someone else can lose, if you will. Now, look, it doesn't mean that we can't work with somebody that's dealing with a lot of competitive aspects of their career or their business. We do that all the time, right? But, generally speaking, the world of coaching typically doesn't embrace trying to beat someone else, trying to somehow be superior to others in some way. We want an equal relationship with you, and hopefully we could support you in having equal relationships with the rest of the world as well. And yes, if you want to go out there and win the game, winning your game hopefully means just you get to win, and that you don't have to make somebody else lose. You don't have to beat somebody else or beat somebody else up for that matter. We strengthen the client's skills, help them versus help them beat the other team. It's win-win. We want everybody to win. We want the people around you to win, and we're going to support you in that more than anything else, typically at least. So I hope that helps clarify, what this is that you're actually getting involved in or are involved in if you already have been working with one of our coaches or a coach that you're transferring to one of our coaches from. And, we're there to relate to you as a partner. We're not better than you. We're not smarter than you. We're not even necessarily more knowledgeable than you. We're equal in our in our own way of looking at this. We're equal to you in so many different ways. And I'm sure you've got areas that you're superior to us in. That's why Michael Jordan's coach didn't play against Michael in the game, because Jordan was superior to them as a player, right? Not necessarily as a coach, but at least as a player. And the coach also knew the coach brought something to the table. They had areas where they were superior enough to provide great coaching too. But at the end of the day, we want to see ourselves as a lateral relationship where we're partnering with you. And I'll just read from my notes here. Coach does not relate to the client from a position of an expert, authority, or healer. Kind of talked about that already. Coach and client together choose the focus, format, and desired outcomes for their work. So we work with you. We work with you on what your goal is. You ultimately decide, but we're going to support you in that and give you feedback. The client does not relinquish the responsibility for creating and maintaining these goals, outcomes, etc. Nor does the coach take full responsibility for them. So we're not there to tell you what to do. We're not there to set your goals for you, and we're not there to be responsible for how you do ultimately as well. Now, are we responsible for the coaching relationship? Of course we are. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for achieving your goals, doing what it takes to get there, selecting what goal is important. We will totally support you with that stuff as well. But as soon as one of my clients is like, hey, you're supposed to make me successful, I already know they lost. They're DOA, dead on arrival already. So be careful of that one. We'll get to that a little bit more when we talk about just making the most of the coaching relationship. Coaching is in a way a hybrid relationship though. A coach is close enough to you as a partner to really care. We care about your results, but we keep enough distance. We're not like your family or your friend necessarily. We can be friendly. We can be friends. But the coaching relationship is not about us just being your friend. So we'll be a great cheerleader sometimes, but we keep enough distance between us, coaching client, to serve you in an unattached fashion. So I want you to achieve your goals, but I'm not dependent on you achieving your goals. I am committed to working with you in such a way where you're just going to be unstoppable and get to where you want to go. But if you don't, I'm going to be okay, right? I'm going to go home to my life and I'm going to play full out in my life, right? At the same time, I want you to win, and my butt's on the line too, as your coach, but not in terms of like being my life. It's not what my life is not what your life is. They're two different lives, right? So we have that separation. We understand and appreciate that, and we're going to play full out with you, no doubt about it. That's what you're paying for, if you will. So that's it. Ultimately, what to expect from coaching, and again, I'll share this in more detail when we talk a little bit more in a separate conversation about just making the most of coaching, getting the most from your coach, and then making sure you're giving what it takes to make that coaching relationship just stellar and just off the rails for you in a good way. But you could really expect a lot from coaching. And I'll read this. So I'm not going to even pitch and catch this one off the cuff. Expect anything that you may want for yourself in your life. Really mean that. Like just anything you could reasonably expect. In coaching, you will remove the two barriers that prevent you from achieving whatever you want within a short period of time. Number one, the external circumstances. We're going to work with you on that stuff. And number two, you. Ultimately, you are your most predominant barrier, right? You're the ultimate limitation on your life. And we're there to support you in blowing the lid off of that, but also kicking the circumstances butt as well. You are not going to be a victim of circumstance if you're powerfully in a coaching relationship with me or anybody on this team as well. So I personally see my clients, make millions of dollars, turn their businesses around, make major career and life transitions, start successful businesses within a very short period of time, within months. I find the ideal relationship, a life partner, lose tons and tons and tons of weight. You name it. I've seen my clients do it. It's not because I'm an expert in those areas. I have expertise in those areas. My team has expertise in those areas, but typically that's not what I'm like. I know people right now that I disagree with how they're doing the weight loss, but they're still losing weight because I'm supporting them as their coach, not as their counselor or their mentor or some expert when it comes to weight loss, although I have expertise in that area among many others. It's not my job to have that expertise, but I want to make sure I maintain as much knowledge as I possibly can. So if somebody really needs it, I can share it with them. But in your program, it's possible your coach is not going to do that for a whole variety of reasons. So a lot of these clients that have these stellar results, I'm reading this again, just so you know, I'm looking down here, looking at my notes. Many of these clients began coaching with what you might call average lives. Some had major difficulties and challenges. All of them made a commitment to an extraordinary life or extraordinary business when they signed up for coaching. And over those following months and years, we created the plans for their successes and scheduled their actions that were necessary for attainment of their goals. That's it. Now, can that get real fancy and deep? Can that get esoteric at times? Can that get rigorous and tough and get you to the point where it's like, wow, you're kind of feeling like your back's against the wall and you're really fighting for a breakthrough? Yeah, sure it can. But that's it. It's really just that simple. So welcome to coaching officially. If you're working with somebody on my team, I've just assigned you a coach, or you're in a program with us. I can't wait to see the kind of results that you achieve in that process. And anytime you need help or you need clarification or need support that your coach isn't giving, or you feel you need something more, just let me know. I'm just a phone call or instant message or an email away nowadays. Take care, and I'll look forward to working with you very soon.